Have you ever noticed how some mornings feel heavy before they even begin? Before your feet touch the floor, before the sun fully rises, before a single word is spoken, the mind is already racing, replaying yesterday's regrets, anticipating today's problems, worrying about tomorrow's uncertainties. And yet, what if the very first moments of your morning could become a sanctuary instead of a battlefield? What if peace wasn't something you had to earn after a long day of struggle, but something you could gently awaken within yourself before the world demanded anything from you? For thousands of years, people have searched for the secret to a calm and meaningful life. They looked for it in success, possessions, relationships, and achievements. But the Buddha pointed in a different direction. He taught that lasting peace does not come from controlling the world around us. It comes from understanding the world within us. The truth is, every morning we are given a choice. We can wake up and immediately become prisoners of our thoughts, pulled in 100 different directions by fear, stress, and endless expectations. Or we can pause. We can take one conscious breath. We can remember what truly matters, because a calm mind is not the result of a perfect life. It is the result of a wise relationship with life exactly as it is. The Buddha's teachings were never meant to be distant philosophy. They were practical reminders for ordinary people facing ordinary challenges, loss, uncertainty, disappointment, change, and the endless fluctuations of daily life. And perhaps now, more than ever, we need those reminders. We live in a world that constantly tells us to hurry, compare, achieve, and prove ourselves. Yet the deeper wisdom of the Buddha whispers something entirely different. Slow down, be here. This moment is enough. In today's video, we will explore 6 powerful morning reminders inspired by the Buddha's teachings, simple truths that can help you begin each day with greater clarity, compassion, resilience, and inner peace. As you listen, don't rush to understand every word. Instead, allow these reminders to settle gently into your heart, because sometimes a single thought remembered in the morning can transform an entire day, and sometimes a calm morning can transform an entire life. So take a deep breath, let go of whatever you carried into this moment, and together let's explore the 6 morning reminders the Buddha taught for a calm mind. There is a quiet struggle that many of us bring into the very first moments of the day. Before we have even stepped out of bed, before we have spoken a single word, the mind begins its familiar work. It starts measuring, comparing, planning, resisting. It starts telling us what should have happened yesterday, what needs to happen today, and what absolutely must not happen tomorrow. Without realizing it, we enter into a silent argument with reality before the day has even begun. Perhaps you've noticed this in your own life. You wake up and immediately remember something you wish were different. Maybe it is a challenge in a relationship. Maybe it is a financial concern, a health issue, a difficult conversation waiting for you, or simply a feeling of uncertainty that follows you like a shadow. The mind sees what is present and instantly begins negotiating with it. It says, "This shouldn't be happening. Things should be easier. I should be further along. Life should look different than this." And yet, the more we argue with reality, the more exhausted we become. What makes this particularly difficult is that resistance often disguises itself as intelligence. We believe that if we worry enough, analyze enough, or fight hard enough against what we dislike, we will somehow gain control. But have you ever noticed that the mind can spend hours, days, even years resisting something without actually changing it? The resistance becomes a second layer of suffering added on top of whatever challenge already exists. Imagine carrying a heavy stone in your hands. The stone itself may already feel burdensome. Now imagine clenching it with all your strength, refusing to loosen your grip, becoming angry that the stone exists at all. The weight has not changed, but your relationship with it has become far more painful. This is often how we relate to our lives. The invitation each morning is not to pretend that difficulties do not exist. It is not to force positivity onto painful experiences. It is not to convince yourself that everything is wonderful when it clearly is not. Genuine peace does not come from denying reality. It comes from meeting reality honestly. There is tremendous freedom in simply acknowledging what is here. This is what I am feeling. This is what I am facing. This is the life that is unfolding in this moment. Nothing more. Nothing less. Most of us have been taught that acceptance means giving up. We hear the word and imagine passivity, weakness, or resignation. But true acceptance is something entirely different. Acceptance is the willingness to stop fighting with the fact that this moment is already here. Think about that for a moment. Whether you approve of it or not, this moment has arrived. Whether you like it or dislike it, this moment exists. Whether you think it is fair or unfair, this moment is what it is. The struggle begins when we demand that reality be different before we allow ourselves to be at peace. We tell ourselves that we will finally relax when circumstances improve. We will finally be happy when problems disappear. We will finally feel calm when uncertainty is gone. But life rarely unfolds according to those conditions. There is always another challenge, another change, another unexpected twist waiting around the corner. If peace depends on life becoming predictable, peace will always remain out of reach. The remarkable thing is that acceptance allows us to engage with life more effectively, not less effectively. When we stop wasting energy resisting what is already happening, we discover energy for responding wisely. Consider a sailor crossing a vast ocean. The sailor cannot control the wind. No amount of frustration, anger, or denial can change its direction. But by accepting the wind as it is, the sailor can adjust the sails and continue the journey. Refusing to acknowledge the wind does not create freedom. Accepting it does. The same principle applies to our inner lives. Perhaps this morning you woke up feeling anxious. Can you simply acknowledge anxiety without making it a problem? Can you notice its presence without immediately trying to eliminate it? Perhaps sadness is here. Can sadness be allowed to exist for a moment without being labeled as wrong? Perhaps uncertainty is visiting your mind. Can you sit beside uncertainty rather than running from it? These questions may seem simple, but they point toward a profound transformation. Much of our suffering comes not from difficult emotions themselves, but from our refusal to experience them. We fear fear, we resist sadness, we judge confusion, we condemn vulnerability. As a result, we become trapped in an endless cycle of struggle. Yet something extraordinary happens when we stop running, when we stop trying to escape every uncomfortable feeling. We begin to discover that we are larger than those feelings. Anxiety may arise, but it is not the whole of who we are. Sadness may appear, but it does not define us. Fear may visit, but it does not own us. Like weather moving across an open sky, emotions come and go. The sky does not fight the storm. It allows the storm to pass through. In the same way, acceptance teaches us to become spacious enough to hold whatever experience is present. This does not happen overnight. It requires patience. It requires kindness. It requires a willingness to meet ourselves with compassion rather than criticism. Many people begin each day carrying an invisible burden of self-judgment. They immediately start listing everything that is wrong with them. They criticize their mistakes, compare themselves to others, and focus on perceived shortcomings. They become their own harshest enemy before breakfast. But what if this morning you chose a different approach? What if instead of beginning with judgment, you began with curiosity? What if you simply asked right now, how do I fix myself? Not, why am I like this? Not, when will I finally get everything together? Just, what is here? You might discover tiredness. You might discover fear. You might discover excitement. You might discover confusion. Whatever appears, you can meet it with openness rather than resistance. There is a tenderness in this approach, a softness that many people have forgotten. We spend so much of our lives trying to become someone else that we rarely offer kindness to the person we already are. Acceptance begins with recognizing that this moment, however imperfect, belongs to your life. This feeling belongs to your life. This challenge belongs to your life. This uncertainty belongs to your life. And because it belongs to your life, it deserves your attention rather than your rejection. The paradox is that when we stop trying to push experience away, it often loses much of its power over us. What we resist tends to persist. What we allow can move naturally through us. As the morning unfolds, remember that you do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to solve your entire future before lunch. You do not need to eliminate every fear before stepping into the day. You only need the courage to meet this moment as it is, one breath at a time, one step at a time, one experience at a time. There is great dignity in this kind of presence. It allows us to stand in the middle of uncertainty without collapsing. It allows us to face challenges without becoming consumed by them. It allows us to participate fully in life without demanding guarantees. And perhaps that is one of the most liberating realizations we can carry into the morning. Life does not need to be perfect for us to be present. We do not need ideal circumstances to practice peace. We do not need certainty to experience calm. We simply need the willingness to stop fighting the reality of this moment and start meeting it with an open heart. The day ahead may bring surprises. It may bring joy, disappointment, success, failure, comfort, or discomfort. No one knows exactly what awaits. But when we begin the morning by accepting what is, we create a foundation that cannot easily be shaken. Instead of standing against life, we stand with it. Instead of exhausting ourselves through resistance, we conserve our energy for wisdom. Instead of demanding that reality change before we can be at peace, we discover that peace begins the moment we stop arguing with what already is. One of the most important things you can remember when you wake up in the morning is this: your thoughts are not who you are. At first, this may sound simple. It may even sound obvious. But if you look closely at your experience, you may notice how easily the mind convinces you otherwise. A single thought appears, and within moments, you are completely identified with it. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticed, and suddenly it becomes the lens through which you see yourself, other people, and the entire world. You wake up and the mind says, I'm not good enough. A few moments later, it says, today is going to be difficult. Then, what if something goes wrong? Then, I'm falling behind. Then, everyone else seems to have their life figured out. Before long, these thoughts begin to feel like facts, not possibilities, not passing mental events, facts. And this is where much of our suffering begins. The mind has an extraordinary ability to create stories. It is constantly interpreting, predicting, remembering, comparing, and judging. It produces thoughts in the same way that clouds form in the sky. Some are light and pleasant. Others are dark and unsettling. Some disappear quickly. Others seem to linger for hours. The challenge is not that thoughts appear. Thoughts are a natural part of being human. The challenge is that we become entangled in them. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves are floating along the surface of the water. Some are large, some are small, some move quickly, others drift slowly. Now imagine that every time a leaf appears, you jump into the river and try to follow it. You chase one leaf after another. You struggle against the current. You exhaust yourself trying to keep up. This is often what happens with our thoughts. Instead of simply noticing them, we climb inside them. We follow them wherever they lead. A single worry about the future becomes an hour of anxiety. A single memory becomes a day of regret. A single criticism becomes a week of self-doubt. Without realizing it, we surrender our peace to every thought that enters our minds. Yet there is another possibility. You can sit beside the river, you can watch the leaves pass, you can observe thoughts without becoming trapped by them. This changes everything. The moment you recognize that a thought is merely a thought, a space begins to open. Within that space, freedom becomes possible. This does not mean that thoughts disappear. It does not mean that fear never visits you again. It does not mean that uncertainty suddenly vanishes. The mind will continue producing thoughts. That is what minds do. The difference is that you no longer treat every thought as the absolute truth. You begin to see them for what they are, temporary visitors moving through awareness. Think about how many thoughts you have had throughout your life. Thousands, millions, perhaps countless. How many of those thoughts turned out to be completely inaccurate? How many worries never happened? How many fears were exaggerated? How many assumptions proved false? How many judgments changed over time? The mind often speaks with great confidence, but confidence is not the same as wisdom. A thought can sound convincing and still be completely untrue. Yet most of us spend our lives believing every thought that appears. We rarely stop to question them. We rarely pause long enough to observe them. We simply accept their authority. This is especially true when the thoughts are about ourselves. When the mind says, "You are not enough," we believe it. When the mind says, "You always fail," we believe it. When the mind says, "Something is wrong with you," we believe it. The strange thing is that we would never speak to a friend in this way. If a friend came to us feeling discouraged, we would offer understanding. We would offer patience. We would offer compassion. But when these same harsh voices arise inside our own minds, we often treat them as trusted advisors. We listen without question, we obey without reflection, and in doing so, we create enormous suffering. The invitation each morning is to become curious about your thoughts rather than controlled by them. Notice them, observe them, allow them to come and go. You do not have to push them away. You do not have to fight them. You do not have to replace them with positive thoughts. You simply have to recognize them. There is tremendous power in silently saying, "This is a thought, not a fact, not a prophecy, not reality itself, just a thought about the future, a thought about the past, a thought about yourself, a thought about someone else." The moment you recognize this, the thought begins to lose its grip. Many people spend years trying to eliminate difficult thoughts. They want a perfectly calm mind, a perfectly positive mind, a perfectly peaceful mind. But the effort to create a perfect mind often becomes another form of struggle. The goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to stop being imprisoned by thinking. There is a difference. The sky does not become disturbed because clouds appear. The ocean does not lose its depth because waves rise on the surface. In the same way, your awareness remains present beneath every thought that comes and goes. This awareness is quiet, open, spacious. It does not need to argue with thoughts. It simply notices them. And when you begin to rest in that awareness, something remarkable happens. You realize that there is more to you than the stories in your head. You are not the voice that constantly judges. You are not the voice that worries. You are not the voice that compares. You are not the voice that criticizes. Those voices arise within awareness. They are experiences you have. They are not who you are. This understanding becomes especially valuable during difficult times. When life feels uncertain, the mind often works overtime. It generates endless scenarios, endless fears, endless predictions. It tries desperately to create certainty where none exists. But certainty is rarely found through thinking. More often, it is found through presence, through returning to this moment, through feeling your breath, through sensing your body, through noticing what is actually happening right now instead of becoming lost in what might happen later. Most of the mind's worries live somewhere other than the present moment. They live in imagined futures. They live in remembered pasts. They live in stories that have not happened and may never happen. Meanwhile, life is unfolding right here, in this breath, in this moment, in this simple experience of being alive. The morning offers a beautiful opportunity to practice this before reaching for your phone, before checking messages, before entering the rush of the day. Take a moment to sit quietly. Notice the thoughts arriving. Watch them without judgment. Some will be pleasant. Some will be uncomfortable. Some will make no sense at all. Allow them to move through your awareness like birds crossing the sky. There is no need to chase them, no need to analyze them, no need to believe them. Simply let them come. Simply let them go. The more you practice this, the more you begin to trust something deeper than thought. You begin to trust your ability to remain present even when the mind is busy. You begin to trust your capacity to stay open even when fear appears. You begin to trust that peace is not found by controlling every thought, but by changing your relationship to them. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to treat yourself with greater kindness. You stop judging yourself for having anxious thoughts. You stop criticizing yourself for feeling uncertain. You stop believing that difficult thoughts mean something is wrong with you. Because difficult thoughts are part of being human. Everyone experiences them. Everyone struggles with them. Everyone becomes lost in them from time to time. The practice is not perfection. The practice is remembering again and again that thoughts are visitors, remembering again and again that awareness is larger than any story, remembering again and again that you do not have to follow every mental path the mind presents. Some thoughts deserve attention, others deserve a smile, and many simply deserve space to pass by. As you move through the day, thoughts will continue to appear. Some will invite fear, some will invite doubt, some will invite judgment. When they do, pause for a moment, take a breath, notice the thought, acknowledge its presence, and then gently return to what is here: the sound of the wind, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the rhythm of your breathing, the simple reality of this moment. Again and again you return, not because the mind stops wandering, but because you no longer believe that every thought deserves your loyalty. You learn to let thoughts be thoughts, and in that spaciousness, a profound sense of calm begins to emerge. Not because the mind has become silent, but because you have discovered that even in the midst of noise, there is a part of you that remains still, aware, and free. There is a truth that touches every part of our lives, yet we spend much of our time trying to avoid it. We know it intellectually. We see evidence of it everywhere. We watch seasons change, children grow, relationships evolve, and years pass. We witness beginnings and endings every day. And yet, when change arrives in our own lives, we are often surprised by it. We resist it. We argue with it. We wish it were not happening. The truth is simple: everything changes. Nothing stays exactly the same. The feelings you have today will change. The circumstances you are facing will change. The people around you will change. The world itself is constantly moving, shifting, unfolding in ways we cannot fully predict or control. And one of the most comforting reminders you can carry into the morning is this: whatever difficulty you are experiencing right now is also subject to change. It may not feel that way. When we are in the middle of pain, it often feels permanent. A difficult season can seem endless. A broken heart can feel like it will never heal. Anxiety can convince us that we will always feel trapped. Loneliness can whisper that nothing will ever improve. The mind has a remarkable ability to take a temporary experience and turn it into a lifelong sentence. This is how it will always be. It says, nothing will ever get better. It says, you will never move beyond this. And when we believe those stories, suffering deepens. But if you pause for a moment and look back over your life, you may notice something important. How many things have you already survived that once felt impossible? How many moments did you think would break you forever? How many losses seemed unbearable? How many fears seemed overwhelming? And yet here you are, not because life became perfect, not because every problem disappeared, but because change continued to unfold. The experience that once felt permanent eventually shifted. The emotions that seemed unbearable eventually softened. The circumstances that appeared fixed eventually transformed. This is not a failure of life, it is the nature of life. Everything moves, everything changes, everything flows. The challenge is that we often want certainty more than we want reality. We want guarantees, we want promises, we want reassurance that things we love will remain exactly as they are, and that things we dislike will disappear immediately. But life does not operate according to those demands. Life is movement. Life is transition. Life is a continuous process of arriving and departing. And much of our suffering comes from trying to hold tightly to what cannot be held. Imagine standing beside a river and trying to stop the water from flowing. You could spend all your energy fighting the current. You could become frustrated by its movement. You could demand that the river remain still, but the river would continue flowing, not because it is against you, not because it is punishing you, but because flowing is its nature. Life is much the same. Change is not something that occasionally happens. Change is what is always happening. The problem is not that life changes. The problem is that we often expect it not to. We build our sense of security around things that are inherently temporary: a job, a relationship, a role, a plan, a particular version of ourselves. Then, when change arrives, we feel betrayed. But perhaps what we call betrayal is often life simply being life. This realization can feel uncomfortable at first. Many people hear the idea of impermanence and immediately feel anxious. They think it means that nothing matters. They think it means there is no stability. They think it means everything valuable will eventually disappear. But there is another way of understanding it. Impermanence is not only the reason beautiful things end, it is also the reason painful things end. The same truth that allows joy to change also allows suffering to change. The same truth that brings endings also brings new beginnings. If nothing changed, healing would be impossible, growth would be impossible, transformation would be impossible. Every morning is evidence of this reality. The darkness of night does not remain forever. The sun rises again. Storms pass. Seasons shift. Nature constantly demonstrates what the mind often forgets. Nothing remains fixed. Perhaps this morning you are carrying a burden. Perhaps there is something in your life that feels overwhelming, a challenge you did not ask for, a loss you cannot fully understand, a fear that follows you wherever you go. Notice how quickly the mind turns that experience into a permanent identity. Instead of saying, I am experiencing sadness, it says, I am a sad person. Instead of saying, I am facing difficulty, it says, my life is difficult. Instead of saying, I feel afraid right now, it says, I will always be afraid. This is how suffering expands. We take a passing experience and build an entire future around it. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you simply allowed this moment to be this moment? What if you recognized that feelings are visitors? What if you trusted that even the most intense emotional weather eventually changes? Think about the sky. Some days it is bright and clear. Other days it is covered by dark clouds. There are storms, there is rain, there is wind, there is thunder. Yet no storm remains forever. No cloud owns the sky. Eventually conditions change. The sky itself remains open enough to hold it all. In the same way, your awareness is vast enough to hold every experience that arises. You do not have to become the storm. You can simply witness it. You can allow it. You can trust its impermanent nature. This does not mean pretending pain is easy. Pain is real. Loss is real. Grief is real. Fear is real. These experiences deserve respect and compassion, but they do not deserve the power to convince you that they are permanent. One of the most courageous things we can do is remain open in the midst of uncertainty, not because we know how everything will turn out, but because we understand that life is constantly unfolding. The future has not yet been written. New possibilities are always emerging. The situation you are worried about today may look entirely different 6 months from now. The struggle that feels impossible today may become the source of wisdom tomorrow. The pain you are carrying today may one day become a doorway to greater compassion. We rarely see this while we are in the middle of the experience. Only later do we recognize how much was changing beneath the surface. A seed buried underground appears inactive. Nothing seems to be happening, but growth is occurring where the eye cannot see. Many transformations happen this way, quietly, gradually, beyond our immediate awareness. This is why patience becomes so important. Not passive waiting, not resignation, but a willingness to allow life to unfold at its own pace. The mind wants immediate answers, immediate certainty, immediate relief. Life often offers something different. It invites us into a process of becoming, a process of learning, a process of discovering strengths we did not know we possessed. And that process requires trust. Not trust that everything will happen exactly as we want, but trust that change itself is always occurring, even when we cannot see it, even when we cannot feel it, even when the situation appears stuck. The morning is a beautiful time to remember this. As the sun rises, let it remind you that nothing stays frozen. The world is moving, life is moving, you are moving. The difficult chapter you are living through is moving. The emotions that seem overwhelming are moving. Everything is part of a larger flow. You do not need to force that flow. You do not need to control it. You do not need to know exactly where it is leading. You simply need the courage to remain present within it, to meet each moment as it arrives, to release it when it passes, to stop demanding permanence from a world built on change. And perhaps when you truly understand this, even for a moment, something softens inside, the grip loosens, the fear eases, the desperate need for certainty begins to fade. You start to recognize that change is not your enemy. It never was. It is the very force that allows healing, growth, renewal, and transformation to happen. It is the reason difficult seasons do not last forever. It is the reason new possibilities continue to emerge. It is the reason no painful experience gets the final word. And as you carry this understanding into the day, you may find yourself breathing a little easier, holding your struggles a little more gently, and trusting life a little more deeply than before. Before the day fully begins, before the responsibilities arrive, before the conversations, the decisions, the disappointments, and the unexpected challenges, there is a simple reminder worth carrying with you: choose compassion over judgment. It sounds simple enough. Most people agree that compassion is a good thing. Most people admire it in others. We are moved by acts of kindness. We appreciate understanding. We long to be treated with patience when we are struggling, yet when it comes to our own lives, judgment often arrives much faster than compassion. We judge ourselves for not being strong enough. We judge ourselves for feeling afraid. We judge ourselves for making mistakes. We judge ourselves for not being where we think we should be. And because we are so practiced at judging ourselves, we often extend the same habit toward others. Someone disappoints us. Someone misunderstands us. Someone behaves in a way we do not like. And almost instantly, the mind begins building a case. It explains why they are wrong, why they should be different, why they should have known better. Judgment can appear so quickly that we barely notice it happening. It feels natural, it feels justified, sometimes it even feels necessary. But if you look closely, you may discover that judgment rarely brings the peace it promises. It may provide a temporary sense of certainty. It may make us feel superior for a moment. It may create the illusion that we understand everything, yet beneath that certainty there is often tension, a tightening, a hardening of the heart. Judgment creates separation. It places a wall between ourselves and our experience, a wall between ourselves and other people, a wall between ourselves and the reality of being human. Compassion does something very different. Compassion does not begin with perfection. It begins with understanding. It begins with the recognition that every person you meet is carrying something you cannot fully see. Every person is struggling with fears, hopes, disappointments, insecurities, and challenges that remain hidden beneath the surface. The person who seems impatient may be carrying grief. The person who appears angry may be carrying fear. The person who seems distant may be carrying loneliness. The person who appears confident may be carrying doubt. We rarely know the full story. And because we rarely know the full story, judgment often rests upon incomplete information. Imagine walking through a city at night and seeing only a few lights shining through the windows of buildings. You would never assume that those few lights reveal everything happening inside, yet this is often how we relate to one another. We see a single moment, a single behavior, a single mistake, and we imagine that we understand the entire person. Compassion invites us to become more curious, more open, more willing to acknowledge how little we actually know. This same openness is equally important when directed toward ourselves. Many people spend their lives at war with their own imperfections. They carry an internal voice that is relentlessly critical, a voice that points out every flaw, every weakness, every mistake, every failure. No matter how much they accomplish, it is never enough. No matter how hard they try, the criticism continues. Perhaps you know this voice. Perhaps you woke up with it this morning. Maybe it was already reminding you of something you should have done differently. Maybe it was comparing you to someone else. Maybe it was telling you that you need to improve before you deserve kindness. The strange thing about this voice is that we often believe it is helping us. We think harshness will motivate us. We think criticism will make us stronger. We think self-judgment will somehow lead to self-improvement. Yet most of us already know what harsh judgment feels like. We know how it feels to be criticized. We know how it feels to be shamed. We know how it feels to be treated as though our mistakes define us. Rarely do those experiences bring out the best in us. More often, they create fear, defensiveness, withdrawal. Compassion works differently. Compassion does not ignore mistakes. It does not deny responsibility. It does not pretend that harmful actions are acceptable. Rather, compassion creates the space necessary for honest growth. When we feel safe enough to acknowledge our shortcomings without being crushed by them, learning becomes possible. Transformation becomes possible. Imagine a small child learning to walk. The child falls repeatedly, again and again. No one expects perfection. No one demands flawless performance. The child falls, gets up, and continues. There is patience. There is encouragement. There is understanding. Now imagine treating yourself with the same gentleness when you stumble through life. Imagine responding to your mistakes not with immediate condemnation, but with curiosity. Imagine saying, "This is difficult." Imagine saying, "I am learning." Imagine saying, like every human being, "I am imperfect." Such simple shifts can change everything. The heart begins to soften. The struggle begins to ease. You stop wasting energy fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, something remarkable happens. You become more capable of extending compassion to others. The way we treat ourselves often becomes the way we treat the world. If our inner life is dominated by judgment, we tend to see everyone through the lens of judgment. If our inner life contains understanding, patience, and compassion, we naturally offer those qualities more freely. This does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean allowing harmful behavior. Compassion is not weakness. In fact, compassion often requires tremendous courage. It takes courage to remain open when you want to close your heart. It takes courage to listen when you want to condemn. It takes courage to stay present with pain rather than turning away from it. Many people believe strength means building walls. Strength means becoming harder. Strength means protecting yourself from vulnerability. But some of the strongest people are those who remain tender in a difficult world, not because they avoid pain, but because they refuse to let pain turn them bitter. Every morning presents countless opportunities to practice this. Perhaps someone will disappoint you today. Perhaps someone will misunderstand you. Perhaps someone will say something careless. The mind will immediately offer judgment. It will create a story. It will explain why they are wrong, why they are flawed, why they deserve your anger. Before automatically following that story, pause, take a breath. Remember that you are seeing only a small piece of a much larger picture. Remember that every person is struggling in ways you may never fully understand. This does not excuse harmful behavior. It simply prevents your heart from becoming trapped inside resentment. Compassion creates space. Space for perspective, space for humanity. The same practice applies when difficult emotions arise within you. When fear appears, do not judge it. When sadness appears, do not condemn it. When uncertainty appears, do not treat it as an enemy. Meet these experiences with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. Most of us have spent years trying to eliminate uncomfortable emotions. We treat them as problems that need solving. Yet often what we need is not less feeling, but more compassion toward our feelings. Uh, a frightened part of you does not need punishment, it needs understanding. A wounded part of you does not need criticism, it needs care. A grieving part of you does not need judgment, it needs space. Compassion allows every part of your humanity to be welcomed, not because every feeling is pleasant, but because every feeling deserves acknowledgement. The more you practice this, the more you begin to recognize a profound truth. Human beings are far more alike than they are different. Everyone wants happiness. Everyone experiences pain. Everyone feels fear. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone struggles. Everyone longs to be understood. The barriers that seem so solid begin to soften. The separation begins to dissolve. You start seeing yourself in other people, and you start seeing other people in yourself. Suddenly, compassion is no longer something you force. It becomes a natural response to the shared experience of being human. As the day unfolds, there will be countless moments when judgment feels easier. It will seem faster, more automatic, more familiar, but compassion offers something judgment never can. It offers connection. It offers understanding. It offers the possibility of meeting life with an open heart rather than a closed one. And perhaps that is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself each morning. Not the promise that everything will go according to plan, not the guarantee that you will never feel hurt, but the commitment to meet yourself and others with a little more kindness than yesterday, a little more patience, a little more understanding, a little more willingness to remember that beneath every fear, every mistake, every struggle, and every imperfection is a human being doing the best they can with the wisdom they have in this moment. And when you begin the day from that place, something within you becomes lighter, the heart softens, the mind quiets, and life itself becomes a little easier to carry. As we come to the end of these morning reminders, take a moment to notice something. Nothing outside of you may have changed. Your responsibilities may still be waiting. The uncertainty in your life may still be present. Some of your questions may remain unanswered. And yet, perhaps something within you feels a little different. Perhaps there is a little more space around your worries, a little more softness around your struggles, a little more willingness to meet this day exactly as it is. This is the quiet power of wisdom. It does not always remove our difficulties. It changes the way we carry them. The world will continue to move quickly. There will always be reasons to worry. There will always be circumstances beyond your control. There will always be moments of loss, change, confusion, and uncertainty. But there can also be presence. There can also be compassion. There can also be peace. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop waiting for perfection before allowing yourself to be fully alive. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before the noise of the world rushes in, pause for a single breath. Remember that you do not have to fight reality. Remember that your thoughts are not your identity. Remember that every difficult season eventually changes. Remember that compassion is stronger than judgment. And remember that peace is not something waiting for you in the future. It is something you can begin practicing right now, in this very moment. Because a calm mind is not built in a single day. It is built one breath at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of awareness at a time. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is this: the peace you have been searching for has never been hidden somewhere far away. It has been quietly waiting beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the endless stories of the mind, waiting for you to slow down long enough to notice it. So as you leave this moment and step into the rest of your day, carry these reminders gently, not as rules, not as obligations, but as companions, small lights to guide you whenever the path feels uncertain. And if today becomes difficult, return to your breath. If the mind becomes restless, return to your breath. If fear appears, return to your breath again and again, because every breath is a new beginning. Every moment is an opportunity to start fresh. and every sunrise is life whispering the same timeless invitation, begin again. If these teachings spoke to your heart, take a moment to share in the comments which reminder you needed most today. And if you would like more reflections on inner peace, mindfulness, and timeless wisdom, be sure to subscribe and join us on this journey. Until next time, may your mind be calm, your heart be open, and your path be filled with awareness, compassion, and peace. Take a gentle breath, slow down, and remember this moment is enough.